VAFA Tragics. We're going to try something a little bit different this week as we missed Marty's wine of the week last week, so we're sorry about that, Marty. And as we welcome you, we're going to get to your wine of the week because I think it's a very important one to go to Marty Callagher's wine of the week.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. And look, it is, but first we will actually do the sponsor's product plug first. So this week, a Basilisk Shiraz Mourvedre. So a basilisk, for those of you who have young children, it's the mythical creature from the Harry Potter series. But so welcome to the magical world of wine. Shiraz Mourvedre, Shiraz giving pepper and spice, and Mourvedre giving it the rich lushness. So this will be a great wine as we go through into the colder months for things like casseroles. And the good thing about it is $15 when you can contact me, or you can contact Blair down here at headquarters. Usually this would retail around about $22, $23. That's enough about that. Let's get into something a bit more serious. I suppose a couple of weeks ago we did actually talk about head knocks, and we were probably a little bit blasé, and that wasn't my intention. It was really to actually highlight the issue. Now we can see from some of the footage coming through, and Andrew, thank you very much for showing this. But we've actually had a spate of head-high injuries, and you can see on the vision here that these don't look great. But I think the other thing too to remember is that players actually have a responsibility for their own actions, and to blindly run in and actually look to almost willfully injure players is really not what we want to see here within the amateur sphere. We do know that the AFL has addressed this, and Andrew, we spoke about this previously. The AFL have addressed it, and they've said that we need to, they're doing research into head injuries, and they do need to address this. We've seen in the United States, American footballers have died from excessive head injuries. They've also received compensation from the NFL in regards to head injuries. And here we are with an amateur competition, and the last thing we want to see is some of the vision that we're looking at right now. They're really quite ugly, and they are a blight on the game, particularly given that kids these days don't want to see that. Parents don't want to see their kids in that position.
That's a great point, and it's a great time to welcome the rest of the panel. Mike Fitzgerald, of course, a tragic from day one. Welcome to you.
Evening, Andrew. Evening, panel. Evening, viewers.
And a new tragic tonight, the CEO of Sportscover, David Lamb. Great to have you on board.
Great, thanks for inviting me along.
And we've invited you along to talk about concussion, and in particular, what we should be doing, I guess, as a VAFA and as an amateur sport, what we should be doing for concussion.
Yeah, look, obviously the on-field incident is going to be policed by the umpires, but what we can do, I guess, a little bit more of is watching players return to the game. One of the things we've seen is there's a sideline test called the SCAT3 where players get, a test to see whether they can go back on, but there's currently nothing much out there for players returning from injury in future weeks, and it's a bit hit or miss at the moment.
I guess one of the things that we've seen from those vision there, it's not always clear on when a concussion actually occurs as well. So this test is a way of working that out.
Yeah, I mean, the SCAT3 is a sideline test where they ask a series of questions to see whether a player knows who they're playing, who the last score was, how the game's going, etc. But what's more important is getting a baseline of a person's brain function before the season starts. So the player is injured either at training or in a match, but later on they can go back and do a secondary test. And on that secondary test, before the player returns, they can actually make sure he has enough time out.
So what are we recommending, David, that clubs do now? I mean, we've got the break this week, the mid-season almost. What can they do now to perhaps implement some procedures before they take the field again?
Yeah, one of the things we're actually doing at Sportscover is we've been working with a guy called Professor Ryan Kohler. Used to work with the Springboks, and now he's working with Australian Rugby Union. He's developed a sideline, a brain function test that at any time you could do a test, get knocked out, you can go back and have that test done. We're going to have that available for all the VAFA clubs within a few weeks' time.
It's terrific. Actually, that is terrific. Particularly as I read something recently about the English Rugby Union as now actually stopping players for quite a while in terms of once they do receive a head knock. So what's the rule of thumb that clubs should look to implement, or is there a rule of thumb that clubs can implement?
Look, it's really, really hard. Obviously, the problem is if you have a subjective situation, heaven forbid that you're playing the top team next week and your centre forwards are like they got knocked out, he's probably looking all right for the next week's game. I hate to suggest that was the case, but what we're looking at is getting a more objective case. Currently, the mandatory 1 week or 2 week is better than nothing, but the problem is people's brain function returns at different time. Sometimes people do get back to good in a week, sometimes it's 2 or 3 weeks, but without that baseline brain function test, you're really playing hit or miss, and that's not what we want to do with our players.
Final one, Dave, from me is the partnership between the VAFA and Sportscover, and I guess Sportscover's position in pushing this out to the clubs. So how do you see your involvement with this in terms of making our clubs aware, providing opportunities to get access to these sorts of tests?
Yeah, one of the things we want to do is make sure it's a completely holistic situation where we can actually train the trainers, if you like, so we can talk to the trainers, the club officials, everyone involved in how to administer the test, and then also how to do the follow-up, etc. So it's going to be a real holistic solution. So we're going to be releasing that in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, and then spending some time, club by club, if necessary, if they want that, to talk to them about it. So we've got the players' welfare at heart.
It's certainly the right path forward, I think, for all of our clubs and everyone in the VAFA. David Lamb, thanks very much for coming and joining the Tragics for just a few moments to talk about concussion.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
We'll be back in just a moment with more Tragics. And welcome back to the Tragics, slipping back into his regular spot on the panel. It's a very good evening to Brenton Mann. Welcome to you, Brenton.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Interesting discussion we just had with David Lamb, the CEO of Sportscover, about head knocks and head injuries. And I guess the game you had a look at, Bo Morris and Uni Blues, there was one in the opening minutes of that game.
Yeah, it was Jack Townley. Unfortunately, it was a very unfortunate incident where he had his head over the ball. A player, it was a skill error, he dropped the mark, player comes in, and unfortunately got collected with his hip/shoulder, not in a good way. Had to get ambulance called and off to hospital for scans.
It was an ugly scene, wasn't it, Marty?
Well, it's not something we want to see, is it? I mean, when we think about that, here we are, we've just highlighted some incidents across the rounds already, and there's another one. I mean, look, there was nothing deliberate in that, but it's just one of those unfortunate things, and the players need to be aware that there is that duty of care, and I mean, no one wants to see it. We are talking about amateur football too.
It was a bad weekend for injuries. We'll move on to some others in just a moment. But quickly on the game, Bo Morris getting a win that gets their season back on track.
Yeah, it was a game of two halves. It was Bo Morris early, 5 goals in the first quarter, then 6 in the second, and then it was Blues in the second half. But it was a bridge too far for them. It was still ability to hit targets inside 50, skill errors really let them down. And Bo Morris, when they were allowed to play the game on their terms, really ran through the middle well. They were good around the stoppages and just were better on the day.
Fitzy, Bo Morris has been good, going well for a few weeks at least, and it's a good reward for them.
Well, they were due a win, weren't they? I mean, I think their form has been better than the results they've ended up with. And, I think we talked about this last week, that you can't take any team lightly, because all of them on their day are capable of winning. And Bo Morris certainly showed that at home. They're probably a better team at home than they are on the road at the moment, but a good win for the Sharks nonetheless.
I think Blues are really missing Watts as well. That structure at centre forward, they broke down a lot. Bo Morris took a lot of intercept marks inside 50, and when Blues were allowed to hit targets up inside 50, they were forced wide, but they still looked a lot better. But when they did the big bomb centre forward, they just broke down.
You need that big player to take that chop out mark. Another team that showed that they can beat anyone on their day was De La Salle. They again led the contest, again started fantastically well at Collegians, Harry Trott. But Marty, they fell away again with another second half performance that didn't get them the win.
No, agreed. And again, it comes back to exactly what Brenton was saying. It's turnovers. Turnovers kill you in footy, and De La gave the ball back to Collegians on a number of occasions in dangerous spots, whether it be in their attacking area or even in their defensive area. You know, that kick that goes inside that really needs to land, doesn't land, ball spills, or it's either over-kicked or it's short, it's chopped off. Collegians ran through, and they actually kicked 6 goals directly from turnovers, which is just a killer.
That kick you're talking about, that's the one. You're right, it has to hit. If you're going to go inboard, it's really got to hit. It's like a trampoline turnover, because if you miss that, it bounces straight back down the other end.
Yes. We see that with the opening.
On the rebound.
We see that with the opening, with that kick to Townley in that first incident against Bo Morris. The ball spills, it creates a contest. Forgetting the actual incident itself, but it's in a horrible spot.
It's a turnover goal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Horrible spot to turn it over.
Have we seen the mark of the year? I'm not sure if we have. This effort from Will Tardif against De La Salle. Superb mark in the middle of the ground. Gents, any comments?
Well, it'd have to be up there, wouldn't it?
It's a superb mark, superb grab in the middle of the ground.
So we've seen goal of the year, or goal of the decade.
Goal of the decade.
They've both been against De La. Gee, we're not having a great run at the moment.
No, exactly right. who Dilo got next week after the bye? Because it might be a good chance to see another goal or mark highlight.
Zabs.
Good old Zabs. Yeah. Rightio. Old Scotch, I expected this. I think people were questioning how far the margin against St Bernard's, but they put up a really good show out at the Snake Pit, and it was only their lack of a key forward, which we've highlighted in the past few weeks as well. For Bernard's had theirs with Jones kicking 5 and Boyce bobbing up with another 4 goals. They're going along nicely, Fitzy, St Bernard's, but I'm still not convinced on them yet.
Well, I mean, the job for St Bernard's, as we saw last year, when they didn't do the job, is to win in September. Now, sure, you've got to win enough games to get to September, and look, you can't fault really what they've done this year. Scotch is a team that I think plays quite well at the Snake Pit. Some visiting teams play better than others out there, and it was a creditable performance from the Cardinals, but didn't get the points. St Bernard's very professional, won the day again.
Are they doing I mean, I agree with your comment that they haven't really blown anybody apart. They're very consistent.
Except for Zabs in round 2.
True, but they're very consistent. But is that almost the hallmark of a good side? Just going through, doing their job quietly in an unassuming way, because...
We could probably say the same thing about Old Trinity, who have now won 7 out of 8, and they're going along beautifully, and with another trademark win against Old Zaverians, albeit they had this game probably sewn up a bit earlier than they have in previous weeks, Fitzy.
Well, they did. I mean, their level of skill and teamwork was beyond that of Zabs on Saturday. I don't think there's any doubting that Zabs put in, and at times looked as if they could wrest momentum, but they couldn't do anything. They butchered the ball, as some of the other losing teams did on the day. And Trinity, just a very, very strong unit they play as a team, and they're certainly very tough to beat on the daily, but they're going to be tough to beat wherever they play.
It was a tough break for Old Trinity early in the first quarter, of course, a serious setback to their, seasons, if you like, with knee injury suffered to both their skipper and the Woodrow medalist Brendan Yetzi and Jack Osborne, their forward, who's so important to their structure. We wish them both the best of luck to those two players. Just, we talk about the head injuries as well, but when you see someone do a knee, it's a season-ending injury potentially. We don't know the full results of Brendan's scans, which I'm sure he's had this week as well. But really tough blow for Old Trinity.
It's really going to test their depth, isn't it? Even if it is not as serious as we think, it could be a 6 to 8 week injury. That puts you into the last third of the year, but then you've got to have a few games to get back. But the depth is really going to be tested.
I said it a few weeks ago, and I know that you disputed it, Brenton. We can afford to lose back pockets.
We can.
However, clubs can't afford to lose
No.
A-grade, A-line, top-line players like an Osborne or a Yancey. It's going to really test now.
Now, one of the players at Old Trinity that we've all grown to love in the VAFA over the past couple of seasons, Harry Tinney, he kicked a beautiful goal on the weekend.
He's an outstanding player, Harry. Good to see him back. It was his first week back after that injury that we highlighted earlier in the first segment, and he's just a fantastic player. He's quick. He backs himself. He takes the game on. Those 3 bounces down the ground and rammed it through from 50 into the breeze. That really. That was a big momentum stopper for Zavs, who had the better of the contest to that early stage.
Another impressive player that's come back into form in recent weeks is Bede Marn, and he was back to his absolute best for Uni Blacks against Old Kerry. He kicked 4 goals on the day, the skipper, and he'd win the ball in the pack and then break away with that low run of his out of the pack and deliver and inevitably find a teammate. Old Kerry, we lauded their kicking style a few weeks ago on the show, Marty. You were certainly very impressed with their kicking. This was anything but impressive, this performance of kicking it. Look, they had their chances in this game. They kicked the first, 4 behinds of the game, and all misses, all kickable chances, possibly. Maybe the first one was a bit too far out, but it got rushed over the line for a behind. There was another rush behind in there as well, but really, they were on top early, and then the poor kicking for goal, which we've highlighted regularly on this show again, and then also the field kicking was something that just let the team down, and then you felt it. Heads began to drop as every missed target happened. Blacks began to get more confidence, rebound up the other end, goal from a turnover in midfield or wherever it might have been, and that was the game.
You don't put that scoreboard pressure on, it just kills you, because the other team, you get those 3 or 4 missed shots on goal, the other team goes down the other end, takes that chance, kicks goal, and then you're behind the 8 ball.
But it also goes to what you were saying a few weeks ago, Fitz, where teams tend to lose in clusters.
Well,
so they lost last week against St Bernard's across the space of 5 minutes. This week, they can't.
Yeah, and I think one of the evident things this year is that the competition is probably more even, it's stronger, and making mistakes, there's a greater chance you're going to pay the penalty. And so if you miss a target at your own peril, there's no second chance in a lot of the
I
time.
had an interesting question. We reckon it's more even and stronger. Do you think it's a better standard of football than it has been for a couple of years? And I was chatting to the VAFA representative coach Cam Robertson the week, and he reckons the standard's not as good as it was potentially last year and the year before even as well. Do you have an opinion on that at all?
Yeah, well, I think the standard device, you can measure standard, any number of ways, can't you? And if we're talking about beautiful silky skills, we saw St Bernard's last week do that beautifully against a stationary Carey. 2 weeks earlier, we saw a brilliant Carey do it against a stationary Old Zats. In most weeks, there's pressure applied, and the skills under pressure, yes, they're not going to be as high quality as otherwise they would be. But the pressure is there, and that pressure creates errors, and the players are good enough to capitalise on those.
So the better players can stand up under the pressure. Yeah. So therefore, maybe it's those guys who are at the top, but perhaps who can still stand up and still make the game look that little bit easier. They have a little bit more time, whereas majority of the players aren't able to execute under pressure. So I think that the pressure has gone up, the speed of the game in terms of closing the game down, creating contests, I think more sides are doing that now.
But just one more bit on that one. It seems to me that the three most predictable teams in the competition, and I don't mean that pejoratively, are Trinity, Collegians and St Bernard's. And they do the same things, and they do them well, and sometimes there's a bit of a lapse and it doesn't quite work out for them, but they keep doing it because they know it's the right way, and they go back to what they know, and they do it time after time after time again, and in the end, that wins them games.
It's a definable brand.
Yeah.
It's a definable
brand of football.
That's right.
Moving on to Premier B, and another team doing all the right things at the moment is St Kevin's, and we perhaps haven't highlighted just how good they've been this season, but their winning margins, which I think we did highlight a few weeks ago, how much they're winning games by, but another just knockout performance against Mazin, another 100-point win. They're doing great things.
Well, we did make the comment a couple of weeks ago that what will actually happen in Premier B is that, based on what we're seeing so far, is that relegation staying in Premier B could be built around how do you perform in those two games against St Kevin's, which is not to belittle St Kevin's performance because it's been tremendous and it's going right through the club. They're going well with their seniors, the reserves are going well, their thirds are going well, their under-23s are going well, and under-19s are going well. So they're a club that is doing all the right things.
They seem to have made a stand over the summer. Look, they haven't won. There's that perennial finals, straight sets out of finals, and over the summer they recruited really well. Obviously highlighted areas of their list that they need to improve, and they're going great guns.
They certainly are. Fitzroy had a back-to-back win as well, which was good to see, going to Parkdale for them to get another good win. So they're going along okay as well.
Those are the hipsters went out to the burbs and got a win.
They did indeed. And Old Brighton back on the winners list after suffering 3 losses in a row after their start to the year as well, with a big win over Old Melburnians, who their form's up and down as well.
Very patchy, hard to read.
Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. Because really they should be better than they are,
Yep.
given some of the players they have.
In Premier C, there was a sensational game, top of the table clash, Old Ivanhoe and Marsland. I went and watched the last quarter of this game. It was just stirring stuff. And you'll see from the vision here this great defensive mark from the Old Ivanhoe defender who goes back with a flight and takes the mark, and he too lands on his back and lands awkwardly. But Old Ivanhoe hung on to win by 3 points. Marsland threw everything they could at them, just couldn't get that goal to take the lead. But I'm not sure about this one. I'm sure they'll have a look at this at the umpire's review. A potential deliberate rush behind there, and I think my information is that this should have been paid deliberate rush behind. It wasn't, as it was, but anyway, Marsland did get a goal from a free kicker only a matter of minutes later, but it's under pressure, high stakes game, the umpires are under pressure, players are under pressure, we all make mistakes.
It's that hard to announce stuff, isn't it?
I don't think we've seen one of those deliberate rush behind free kicks since 2009 when Anthony Damon awarded one out the back here at Austinwood number 2 in controversial circumstances.
It's a controversial free kick at the best of times, isn't it?
Certainly is.
AG does like the limelight.
The deliberate
You said
rush
that,
behind.
Marty, I didn't.
It's time now for Good Day, Bad Day.
'cause you had a bad day.
Who had a good day and who had a bad day, Marty?
Good
Oh, sorry.
day. No, I will go good day. I'm going to go good day first of all to Point Cook. On the rise, going really well. A terrific win over Masala. Unbeaten. This is their fifth year in the comp. Going well. I think that they're ready to take the next step. Hopefully they are. I mean, after all, I did tip them at the start of the year. And my bad day, D-Lar.
Oh, no,
5
not
teams,
again.
5 losses.
I'm going to let you back in, Dan.
How many bad days is that now?
Well,
You've given them 2 out of
yeah,
your
2.
7 of the year so far.
No, that's well.
I think it
That was a
like
bad
3
day.
or 4.
Hey, be nice.
Fitzy, you had a good day and a bad day.
Yeah, good day. I think Oakley had a very good win over Monash Blues. Trevor Bromley back in the goals. I think that was a fantastic effort. So it's good to see the Crushers doing well again. Bad day, have to be Brendan Yetzi. Everyone loves to see Brendan play well, and when he's cut down with a knee, it's a tragedy really in football terms that he won't be around certainly for quite some time. When his team is doing so well, and no one deserves a bit of success, team success, more than Brendan. So let's hope he recovers and he's back in time to see Trinity to take part in the finals campaign.
Here. Brendan, who had a good day?
Good day for me was Glenora. They're 2 wins in a row for the first time I think since 2011. And bad day for me, White Friars. They got up by 80 points over Old Mantonians, but
Sounds like a good day.
out of Park Orchards, some of the youth had a bit of fun on a Friday night and stole the copper piping, so they had no hot water and no water at all until halfway through the seniors. So it's a very bad day for them out there.
Who are the visitors? That's a bad day.
Old
for the
Mantonians.
Oh,
They had to buy water on the way.
That's a bad day for the visitors. My good day is Dale Collins from West Brom Grammarians. He kicked 15 goals to break the club record 2 weeks ago, and then last week he's gone out against Chadstone and kicked a lazy 17 goals to have 32 from his past 2 outings to break his own club record. So a great day for Dale Collins. A bad day, it couldn't get any worse for Old Kerry. I just think they write that one off. I think they were 0-14 into the last quarter before they managed their first goal of the afternoon. It was a shocker.
It's unheard of.
That's
It
an
really is.
extraordinary. Yeah, that is. It's almost turn of the century,
Yeah,
turn of the
it
20th
is.
century when you see those final scores.
It'll be one of those ones you'll look at. Yeah.
But Marty, you've been calling all year for consistency in goal kicking, and you finally get it.
I'm complaining. I'm complaining. Yeah, I will.
I ended up with, I think, 316 for the day, but it wasn't a great day. It's time now for Fitzy Fires on 5.
This week, as every week, I look at 5 different aspects of amateur football. Let's go to the videotape. Number 5, everything begins at the back. In the VAFA, a solid defence is the building block of success. Have a look at the official Cliff Bastow House rankings by points against and the respective positions on the ladder of these clubs. Kicking goals is more fun and perhaps more fun to watch, but it would seem at present that the number 1 indicator is the goals prevented. Number 4, one of those top defensive lineups is Old Westbourne Grammarians in Division 4. The Westies are sitting 3rd, but after what they've been through over the past couple of years, it must be gratifying to the faithful to see them performing so well. Yes, they've lost to the 2 teams sitting above them, Point Cook and Canterbury, but kept margins tight both times in a division where blowouts have sadly become the norm. Number 3, also steadying the ship, are Melbourne High School Old Boys, who have seemingly been on the slide since competing in Premier Section a dozen years ago. Now in Division 2, they're just 4-4, but recent form has brought some joy Yarra side and suggests the unicorn is no longer the endangered species that many thought it was. Number 2, there are no half measures at St Kevin's this year. The Scobbers must be licking their lips at the prospects of September, clearly establishing themselves as premiership favourites. Their spring performances in recent years have disappointed and perhaps even angered club boosters. But the Kings of TH King, once amateur football's nomads, are on a tear. When will their reign of terror end? Who will beat them? Indeed, who can? And number 1, in a league where players miss games through injuries sustained by such activities as playing wee tennis and frying an egg, the Queen's birthday break comes at a good time. However, beyond this bye weekend are 3 more games and then an unprecedented 2-week layoff from club football for the clubs in the top 3 sections. How will this affect their chances? Some players will turn out for rep football, but how many are planning trips to warmer climes? Could it be again that travel schedules will decide the fates of finals aspirants? Let's hope that most stay home and suffer the cold with the rest of us. And if you think I'm wrong, don't blame me. I just call it as if I see it.
There he is, Fitzy firing on 5 for another week, another magnificent 5 to cast your eyes over. It's a big hit here at VAFA Tragics. You guys skiers at all? Any of you?
Downhill skiing, mate, on the footy field.
Downhill skiers?
Snowboard.
Not heading off to the snow this weekend?
No.
It's snowing beautifully for Queen's birthday?
No.
No.
I'm staying
Warrnambool.
put in Melbourne.
Down to Warrnambool for a swimming carnival.
Enjoy,
Wow, that's going to be nice. And
Seawater or fresh?
No, we're in a pool, thankfully.
Hopefully it's indoor.
Oh, man.
enjoy your break. We'll have a week off next week on the Tragics, so I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you in a fortnight.
Thanks, Lenny.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
We'll see you all again soon on the Tragics. See you then.
VAFA TV at vafatv.com.